Hi there, my name is Adam Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Firefly MSP. This is the first installment of Bright Ideas. Long story short, I decided a few weeks ago it would be a good time to have conversations on video with some of our clients and friends to see how things are going, both related to COVID and not. But I'm interested to see how business is going, how people are doing personally, just get a chance to catch up, and then the opportunity to share that with all of you. If you happen to be interested in joining me for one of these conversations, I would love to do that. You can just send me a message here on LinkedIn and I'll send you a link and we can schedule a time to talk. So feel free to reach out. Today, we'll be talking with Evan Fox from Helix Architecture and Design in Kansas City. He is a principal over there. And one of the things I realized after we got off the phone or off the video conference was that I didn't ask him to expound upon what Helix Architecture actually does. So I emailed him and he sent me a very succinct response that I'll read to you now. If you'd like to learn more, though, I'd highly encourage you to go to their website. I'll put it on the screen, but it's helixkc.com. They've done a lot of very interesting work that you should check out. Evan said that Helix focuses on workplace, higher education, developer, and community impact projects. They've been around for 27 years, and for 10 of those years, they've been in the Crossroads district in Kansas City, Missouri. So with no further ado, I'd like to move on to the conversation with Evan. Thanks for your time. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first Bright Ideas. I'm here with Evan Fox from Helix Architecture and Design. Evan is a principal over there. He and I met approximately, 4 years ago?
2016, yeah.
So he was a Blackbird Design. I don't remember the exact name. Blackbird Design Studio. What'd you guys call yourself?
Blackbird Design Studio.
Yes. And they merged with a client, which was Helix, that we had already had. And it was kind of interesting. I was telling Tony Sheets the story the other day, but when that merger happened, I was a little nervous that we were gonna kind of butt heads trying to merge things. But as the people that watch this will learn, and whenever I get the chance to talk to Tony, the opposite couldn't have been more true.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know Tony, he sells Google Suite mainly and software as a service platforms. Has become a very significant referral source. So I always think that's kind of funny how the opposite could not have been more true.
We were worried about that too, because I remember talking to Mike and we're like, "Does Tony and Adam, are they going to play nice? Do they do the same thing? But yeah, it all worked out well."
Yeah, it worked out great. So basically, this is my first time doing this, so if this is a little rough, as you guys watch this today, hopefully it'll get smoother, and hopefully Evan will bear with me. But basically what I've done is I've sent Evan a few topics that we're going to discuss today, trying to keep this informal. I don't want you to feel like you're being interviewed, so more of a discussion.
I'm in a t-shirt and a hat, so this is pretty informal.
I'm always in a t-shirt. Evan gave me a hard time when I sent him this invite because he saw my LinkedIn picture. And I'm wearing a suit, which is something that I don't think very many people have ever seen actually happen in person. So, oh man, this is more the usual. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was how our company started working together. So obviously you and I, Evan, it was when you guys merged. But right. The interesting story for Firefly on the Helix side is there was this afternoon, and it was one of those unusually warm days in November. So this would have been back in 2014. And Patrick, who you've met obviously, and most of our clients will know, he and I decided the weather's nice. We should just go walk around the Crossroads and introduce ourselves to some people and, see if we can pick up a client. And so we took our business cards and started walking around. And at one point we walked into Helix's office. And if any of you have been to their office, it's I would call it visually stunning, especially when you compare it to, like our office is, it's not that it's not nice, but it's just very average, street level, one level, very one dimensional. Helix, if you haven't been to their office, hopefully someday you'll be able to when the world's not crazy. Yeah. It's on 2 levels with a large staircase in the middle. And for a small company like us, we were like, whoa, this is awesome. And so we struck up a conversation with Nina at the front desk, and she basically shared with us that our timing was interesting because the dissatisfaction with IT had reached a boiling point. And she was like, they probably have something in mind to do, but I'll pass your card on. The funniest part of that whole story was we got in the car and we're driving, and 35 minutes later we had a meeting. And it was with, I think it was with John Waller, who's actually like in Detroit now.
Yeah.
but we met, and it took several months, as it probably should with a large company. You kind of need to make sure that the company you're choosing is good. You need to make sure that the plan is right and that the staff is ready and that there's everything. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I believe by January of 2015, we had a contract and we started in February. And so we've been working together ever since. So the interesting thing, and I've told this to the Helix staff, but I think it's interesting to the people that will watch this. I don't know about everybody in their own business, but if you've ever read the book Tipping Points, it seems like it has a lot of very valid points. And you get to these moments in business where something happens and things change. Sometimes they change for the better, sometimes they change for the worst. But in our case, it was a tipping point to make us, I think we viewed ourselves as a little bit more, I don't want to use the word professional, because I don't think there was ever a lack of professionalism. Legitimate, I think, is the word I'm looking for. So we went from kind of working for a lot of little small companies, and for whatever reason, that shift to Helix was a tipping point. And we picked up a lot of architecture firms after them and a lot of larger firms after them. And Firefly 5 years later is more than double the size, probably almost triple the size when we picked them up. So it's been quite the journey. But I'm happy we're starting off, Evan, because I've told you and Mike this before. You're not supposed to pick favorites, but you guys are my personal favorite client. So it's a good place to start. So I guess basically, how are things going for you guys, just generally, and kind of with COVID in the mix?
Yeah, COVID. We're doing pretty well, actually. We had a really good, I think, like a lot of people, we had a really good start to the year, and that's kind of helped buoy us a little bit over to kind of to help weather the storm. Like everybody, we went back, worked from home starting in March, and probably about a month ago, we kind of told everybody, I think it was July 1, we kind of told everybody, if you want to start coming to the office, you can, nothing's mandatory. And then we've been getting a lot of questions from our clients about what is the office going to look like now? What's the workplace? Social distancing, and not only just like during COVID, but after. What is this showing us that how much we can work from home? So, a few people in our office for a couple projects, clients had reached out and said, we need to make changes now. So we put together a plan, we've shared it on our social media. But then at Helix, we did the same, we implemented the same thing in the office with obviously more hand sanitizer. Everybody's got to wipe everything down, masks anywhere if you're in the office that's not at your desk. So I think like everyone, we were optimistic at the beginning that, we could go home, flatten everything. Maybe this thing can work itself out. But now, like the rest of the world, everybody knows that this is something we're going to have to just deal with for a while. So Helix in general is good. We haven't had to do any layoffs. The year still looks like it's going to be a decent year. So can't really complain too much about where the firm is.
Yeah. Well, and I think with you guys long term, maybe you can tell me if this is true, but I know a lot of your work has been revitalizing spaces into other things, like the Traders Building, for instance.
Yep.
I could see a scenario in which commercial space becomes less attractive long term, which from where I sit probably just opens up opportunities for you guys for conversions, because that's probably where it'll head next.
Yep, conversions, and even on the workplace side, people are and we've gotten a few calls from potential clients that they have X amount of square feet and they want to reduce that by 30%. That obviously takes some design and work. So even though it's not, the flashy new headquarters for a huge company, it's still a significant amount of workplace work for us that we're, hopefully can capitalize on when people start looking at what it looks like in 3, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Absolutely. So architecture, as I understand it, especially, we've had enough tickets from Helix to move people closer together when they work, that we kind of definitely understand that teamwork's a big part of architecture. How have you sort of made up the difference without being able to sit next to each other every day?
Yeah, it really depends, and this is kind of in the weeds, but it really depends on what phase of a project you're in. For projects that are kind of doing construction documents where you're just putting everything together, drawing, detailing, coordinating stuff with clients, it's actually been pretty good because you're at home, just heads down, crank away on drawings. the front end kind of design collaboration is much more difficult. You can't really just sit down and sketch with somebody. You can't, it's there's platforms, but it's hard to it's a lot harder to do that front end collaboration than the back end kind of design. So um, we've been having some meetings in the office for the front end stuff. Just
Mm-hmm.
if anybody's comfortable, do you want to come in? We can just sketch through stuff. I've gone in a few times, just marker board, just kind of work through a couple
Mm-hmm.
details. It's so much easier, but it's definitely a challenge. And we have, depending on what people are working on projects, I think we're probably having more team meetings in the office,
Mm-hmm.
socially distance, just to really kind of help push that along, because we still got to run a business no matter what's going
Absolutely.
on.
Yeah, it's interesting later today. If it's anything worth your guys' time, I'll let you know. But an old colleague of mine that worked in, he was one of those people that when you have a conference, he's on the audiovisual team by contract or whatever. He reached out to me from LinkedIn yesterday, but you talked about marker board. He works for a company now that I'm going to look at a demo of it later today, but he basically said they've taken the smart board several steps forward from where people kind of think of it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it's interesting in part is one of the solutions they're trying to provide is that you could have a meeting, basically make the meetings apart so much more like they're together. And so they're developing products that I would guess in the future you could even have in your own house.
Mm-hmm.
But when you write on your board, it writes on everybody's board.
That's cool.
So technology will hopefully save at least parts of our sanity here.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm interested in with everybody we talk to is so when obviously in March when all this happened, we were all kind of a little concerned to a lot concerned, I think. I don't know that there's a business owner out there or even just a worker out there, anyone out there who didn't experience a decent amount of trepidation. Now that we've had some time to look back, is there something that comes to mind that has gone better than you expected specifically? And if you don't have an example, that's fine. I'm just curious.
No, I think we've actually still been in Helix. Still been able to be really efficient
Mm-hmm.
as a firm, and I think what we do is lends itself to that. Obviously, there's market segments that just get wiped out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if something closes, I mean, we have clients that only do retail work and they're not doing anything. So I think we were pretty diversified, and I think making the flip to home, we were able to get everybody up and running. I think with your guys' help, the technology that was in place, we already had all of our models in the cloud, so people could work remotely on their Revit and their drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Most people had laptops. We let people take stuff home, so I was really impressed with how quickly we could adapt to that and still be efficient. I mean, March, we still had a good month in March.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the thing I'll say that was nice working with you guys on that specifically was we had a few clients where you were like, we would tell them, hey, you really need to plug into your router. Wi-Fi just isn't good enough for what you're doing. And it was like a not a fight, but like tug of war.
Right.
Like, we know what's going to work and what doesn't work, especially if you have Google Fiber and you have their router. Like, you have to be plugged in. It's just, or you have to replace the router. So you guys definitely, I think the thing that's nice is when you have those clients who trust you, they take your advice, they implement the solutions. I know you guys bought a bunch of cables so that people could come grab them and
Mm-hmm.
have everything they needed quickly. I think the interesting thing from our end is that supporting you guys in this environment has been, it basically feels the same from where we sit, because we've stopped trying to come on site. We've tried to limit on-site visits long before this, just because they're expensive in comparison with remote support. And so for us, it's once we kind of got everybody's home network straightened out a little bit, there were many times we were logging into people's routers to try to help them change a few things. But after that's been done, it kind of feels like business as usual on the side of supporting you, which has been interesting.
Yeah.
So when I look, obviously you guys are a little different than someone like a house painter or something. The referrals are going to look markedly different. But as I talk to companies, or as people that might watch this talk to companies, or construction companies or developers or whatever, what ends up being kind of what would you call a good referral? I guess is what I'm asking. Like,
I think the best referrals we get, and what we always say, the best business development is like you take care of your clients.
Mhm.
So the best referrals that we get are from existing clients.
Okay.
Whether it's that same client coming back to us and saying, let's do another project, it went well, or existing clients that know somebody that's going to do a project, or somebody that was on a board for one of the projects we're working on hears of another one. They said, oh, you should call Helix. So I think just people that are familiar with us.
Hmm.
We don't do, I mean, we answer a decent amount of RFPs, but that's definitely not our go-to.
Okay.
Or cold calling, which obviously worked for you at least once. It's mostly just doing kind of our research, and really just you take care of the clients you have, and the phone
Absolutely.
keeps ringing.
Well, I can say that that must be doubly true in construction, just because it so often goes terribly, at least along the way. It usually ends up where it needs to, but
Yeah.
um, considering that you guys are kind of the opposite of that, the people that work with you in those really tense, stressful situations want to work with you again. I think that says a lot,
Yep.
which is interesting.
Yep.
Sweet. That's kind of what I had prepared to talk about. Anything else on your mind, or?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I appreciate you spending the time.
Yeah, of
Thanks for
course.
continuing to work with us. We're excited to see where things go. Obviously, it's always a little, I think the unknown is the part that we've all had to kind of just accept that you're not going to be able to know. Like, so my approach with Firefly has just consistently been, this is what's in front of me. This is what I can control. And what happens tomorrow or next week is just going to happen. So
Yeah, we would always say on the business development side that you can't ever really look farther than 3 months out, and that's kind of, I mean, because projects will come and go, and I think we're down to, like, I mean, just with life, you're down to like a week. Like, what's gonna happen next week? What's
yeah.
gonna happen? Nobody knows, but it keeps changing. So yeah, just react and pivot. That's the new word, right? You got to pivot.
Yes. Pivot.
Right?
All right, Evan. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.